Welcome to the Attractions Group Podcast, episode number 101. Alongside the peripatetic Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig. Ryan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's got a good night's sleep last night, and most importantly, I found out that the Christopher Lloyd movie Angels in the Outfield is now on Disney Plus, which is funny because I thought about that movie about once a year for the past 5 or 6 years. Like, I wonder if that is anywhere, but you couldn't stream it or buy it or anything. You know, every once in a while you come across a movie and it's like some obscure, and you're like, you know what, I'll pay the $4 to rent it, and you can't even do that. Well, here it is. It's on. I know you didn't ask that.
I was scrolling through Disney Plus last week, and there's a lot of good movies on right now.
There certainly are. But Don, you had a couple of milestones. Tell us about your milestone on the racer.
Yeah, hit 12,200 on Monday, and the good thing about it for me, I mean, I had majority of this came from 1981 to 1990. But this year I've got 135 rides, but over the last 5 visits, just to see if I could still kind of do it at the pace that I did back in the 80s. I have averaged 15.2 rides per day over my last 5 visits. And that's what I averaged over 655 visits to get to the 10,000 rides. One of the things that is notable about having over 12,000 rides is the majority of those came in an era where there was not fast lane, there was not early ride time. You couldn't stay on for multiple rides or anything like that. So it's all been non-consecutive and done the old-fashioned way.
That's very cool. Now, I do not have a segue for this, but we put up a poll as to who the listener thinks should be the official pizza of the Attractions Group. Boy, was I close.
It was. I was surprised. Not that it's bad pizza, because I love it. Little Caesars got 25%, but I thought that Papa John's would be in that 20%, 25% range, and Little Caesars would be the one that would be under 20%. So it was a little surprising there, but Domino's wins at 33%, Pizza Hut 29%. So appreciate everyone that cast a vote. So if we ever get an official pizza, looks like we're going to have to be working with Domino's.
It doesn't have to be Domino's. So Papa John,
that's what our audience wants. We got to give our audience what they want, Ryan.
Well, maybe he can raise that percentage by showing his loyalty to the Attractions Group podcast. But, if anybody out there, if you're a business owner or manager or something, if you're interested, we do have sponsorships available for both this and Tower Topics, where you can reach thousands of people. And yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, Don, we're not here to talk about pizza, although we may end up talking about pizza. No guarantees. That's always on the table.
So introduce our guest, Ryan.
So this is not his first time on our podcast, on our humble little program, but first time in a while. I want to welcome to the show Brandon from Theme Park Recommendations. So, Brandon, welcome back to the show.
Great to be here, guys. I'm glad to be here and, talking about some coasters.
Always a great topic, right?
Of course. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the main things we wanted to talk about with you is, it's pretty deep into it now that King's Dominion, they're clearly adding a coaster. There's construction going on. They have a teaser campaign going up. So I know that this history's been a little tumultuous. When did you start hearing about King's Dominion's coaster that's coming?
I think when the parkfans.net or KD fans, they got a hold of the blueprints, or at least the filings for the county of they're going to be doing some work in that area. I don't even know if the blueprints were available, but that was like, oh my gosh, that's the first sign that we're getting something in Volcano Plot of Land. And then after a while, the layout was leaked. And then that's obviously, when it's like, okay, this is really exciting, because if you remember, like 3 years ago, there was another layout leak of a B&M wing coaster, same type, but this one had a lift hill. And honestly, the layout just looked very kind of blah, not really that creative, I guess. And so I was kind of happy that it didn't get built. And then this is a much better version, a better layout, a little bit larger. I think, a better overall fit for the park because, I mean, let's face it, Kings Dominion, I was just there a few days ago. Like, I love that park, but it really suffers from really solid rides that you can just get on, get off, re-ride. I mean, Dominator is really good. Grizzly's fantastic right now. Even Racer 75 is good, but like this will be probably the best coaster in the park in terms of like the GP go because it's just going to be so much fun for them, and it's exactly what Kings Dominion needs. So I'm thrilled.
Now, all signs point to it being a wing coaster. What does it need to be a very successful addition to Kings Dominion?
I mean, for me, I would say bringing in obviously new crowds, and Kings Dominion has I-305, and obviously with a layout like it's so super intense where it's not that GP friendly. It never really has a long line. Just imagine that ride if that was if Intamin and Cedar Fair at the time took a page out of Millennium's playbook and built a coaster very similar to Millennium, like we would be in a different story right now. We'd be talking about something different. But they have that in Twisted Timbers, and Timbers is very full of ejector airtime, a little bit more intense. But I mean, I think you guys have probably been on Thunderbird by now as well, and I have. It's just a solid ride. It's enjoyable. It's not overly intense. Knowing now, been a part of the industry for over 20 years now, like I have a pretty good taste. I know you guys do as well of like what's going to do really well for the GP and what won't do as well. And I feel like it's a really, really good fit for the park. And I'm excited for the theme and to see how they integrate it into my favorite area of the park. Like I love what they've done with that, the Jungle Expedition area. It's fantastic. And I'm really curious to see what they retheme Project 305 too, as well as Flight of Fear and Stunt Track.
Yeah. Backlot Stunt Coaster. Yeah. It's still Italian job to me and probably to you too. But
exactly 100%.
So their teaser campaign, Conquer the Skies, launching in 2025. What do you think about this? What do you think about it as a teaser campaign?
Yeah, I think it's definitely piques the curiosity of it, and the claw marks add a little bit more like frightening feel to it. I think overall, Cedar Fair, Six Flags always does really well. The original Cedar Fair parks have always done really well with their marketing for the new rides. Like Iron Menace is phenomenal. Even Top Thrill 2 is great. Hyping it up. So I'm definitely intrigued by it and excited for it, and definitely looking forward to seeing more.
One of the things that I've liked is from the time that the plans kind of leaked is Kings Dominion didn't seem to run from it, try to deny anything. They seem to have had fun as well with their guests with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So, Brandon, you've been on different wing coasters. Which one that you've ridden is your favorite? And which one would you like for the Kings Dominion version to be the closest to?
Well, I think my favorite's Thunderbird. I've not been on it since I think opening year of 2016 the year after. But the more I ride Gatekeeper, the more I just appreciate what Gatekeeper does. I maybe it's just I'm a little older now, and I've come to appreciate the rides I don't like, that are not super intense. Like I didn't really care for Diamondback when it first opened up. I didn't care for Gatekeeper, but now Diamondback's my favorite at Kings Island in the back row, and Gatekeeper is definitely not my favorite Cedar Point, but like it's just a fun, enjoyable ride. But Thunderbird is just really, really good. As long as this coaster has, interaction with near miss elements, it's going to be a win. It's going to be a winner for the park. And if they pull a Dollywood and don't build anything around it, then it's not going to be as cool. But Wild Eagle is really good too, but I prefer. I've been on all four of the ones here in America, and I would go Thunderbird, Gatekeeper, X-Flight. Well, probably Wild Eagle, then X-Flight. But I like X-Flight because it has the near miss elements. But overall, layout wise, Wild Eagle has great views too.
Yeah, I love Thunderbird.
Yeah,
it's
solid.
Thunderbird is it's one of those like I'm kind of like with you, Brandon. Like my first wing coaster was, I think, Gatekeeper. You might have been with me the first time I rode it. Maybe not. I don't know.
I was with my dad. I was not. It was my dad and I went up there. It was 2013. So
No, I'm talking about Gatekeeper at Cedar Point.
Yeah,
But anyway, I remember thinking like it's fun, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then I like the one at Dollywood a little bit better. I haven't been on X Flight, but Thunderbird, that's the only wing coaster where I'm like, I'm gonna hop in the car, I'm gonna drive 2.5 hours to Holiday World because I want to ride. Dude, that just the launch is so perfect for those things, you know.
Yeah.
So Brandon, like, let's play a little mind game here for a matter of creativity. What's something that King's Dominion could have, whether it involves the coaster, the trains, the theming, or whatever? What would you do to set the ride apart? Like, if you were going to recommend one thing that they could do to make this like unlike any other wing coaster, and you know, really kind of put them on the map with it. What's something that you've thought about?
I would turn the last row backwards, the seats backwards, and do an upcharge, $10 per ride. And so if you want to ride forward facing, you can ride the first 5 or 6 rows, however long the trains are. Then if you want to ride in reverse, you can pay extra. They do that overseas, especially like Australia does it a lot too. I think that'd be really cool and really a unique sensation. But I think that would be something that hasn't been done before here in America. And for that to do that, it's cool marketing as well.
I would certainly set it apart.
Yeah.
So Brandon, you're in the prediction business.
Yep.
So what is your prediction on the name?
It's weird. Like, I've never been good at like thinking about names. Like, there's so many cool names that they could do for this. I just hope it's something that's like catchy and not like so generic that just kind of like blah. Sometimes the old Cedar Fair has a tendency to come up with a really awesome name, and then you have like, you know, Top Thrill 2, you know, which is growing on me a little bit, but like there's so many cooler names out there, in my opinion, that they could have done for that ride at Cedar Point. But I don't know. It'd be really cool to have like a cool backstory with it and have like, you know, there's a lot of cool things they can do with the theme as well as what we know so far about it. I mean, it's in the jungle, so I'm really intrigued by it, actually.
Does the teaser campaign give you any, you know, leaning any way because of that?
Definitely, maybe some like mystery, like maybe something that very, you know, watch out for this because it's very dangerous. It's lurking out there, you know, that type of thing. So I'm impressed with what I've seen so far. And I think it's going to be a really cool fit. And if they theme it right, it'll make it even better.
As long as it's not something like Skyhawk or something like that, right?
Yeah. Seriously.
I was thinking, so long as it's not Superman the Ride, then I'd be all right with it.
Yeah, I know, right?
But Cedar Fair's had some. Like, I'm talking about old Cedar Fair. Has had some really good names recently. You know, I think it kicked off like Mystic Timbers was like the first time I heard that, I was like, "There's no way." But that caught on so well that they did Twisted Timbers, which clearly is a play off of that.
Oh yeah.
And then I mean, I think that the campaign looks good and stuff. So I think there's a lot of upside.
It's very promising.
Yeah, exactly. So Katy is kind of a hidden gem.
It is.
And some would argue that it has the better hardware of the Virginia parks between that and, you know, Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
Why do you think the park gets overlooked?
I mean, I think as far as an enthusiast standpoint, people, you know, I honestly, that's a very good question because I love King's Dominion. I mean, it's not as good of a quality of a lineup as Kings Island, but if I had to pick which lineup do I want for my home park, I would do Kings Island due to there's no metal detectors trying to get through Twisted Timbers, and that capacity is already horrible. Project 305 is great, but it is kind of hard to re-ride. Those two are the main coasters, and those are the biggest issues with those rides. Dominator is great, but sometimes typically that Dominator crew is slow and sluggish, and it's just unfortunate because that ride's fantastic. Again, Grizzly nowadays, I mean, the last 2 years has been fantastic. It's running so good. It's my third favorite in the park now. So I think after this new wing coaster, it's really going to put King's Dominion on the map more because it offers a ride that's easy to re-ride and it caters to the enthusiasts as well as the GP. And it's going to really kind of complete that whole area, which is we've all known and witnessed that KD's been working on that area now for quite some time, ever since Volcano. Rest in peace, Volcano. And that might be a reason why too enthusiasts might be, have a thing against KD and hold it to them for removing Volcano. Because that ride was fantastic when Volcano was there. That park was busy. Because think about if Volcano was still there now, I would pick KD as like the second or third best coaster collection in all the chain, because Volcano was fantastic, and obviously Twisted and Intimidator 305 and Dominator. That's a great top four. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't think this wing coaster will be better, in my opinion, than the Volcano Blast coaster was, but I definitely am intrigued.
When King's Dominion first opened, the ownership group at the time, Tap Broadcast, and they actually thought that was going to be the better park than Kings Island. They thought it would draw better than Kings Island based on its location. You had DC and all of Virginia, and then a couple weeks later, Busch Gardens announced that they were going to build a park there. But let's talk about the culinary experience at King's Dominion. So if I was going to visit there, if I came for the rides, would I stay for the food?
Absolutely. Their food is really good, and they've really done a good job amping up their food quality over the last few years. We just had, unfortunately, one meal due to the timing of it. We got there around 4:00. And so I took my wife and kids over to the Outpost, I think it's called, in the jungle expedition area. Got that lemon glazed chicken. Oh, it's good. And the mac and cheese. But then their barbecue restaurant's really good. The Firehouse, I don't know the name. I had that twice, I think, back in March on opening weekend. That's really good. Then you have the original Grain and Grill, which is obviously, it caters to it's a good food. It's not my top choice, but it's definitely, up there with a lot of people. And, they're definitely working on better quality food, I'm sure, going forward. But yeah, overall, I'm definitely impressed with their food quality. And I love, speaking of food, they got rid of that old Grandma's Kitchen or Country Kitchen, whatever it was called. I'm sure you might know Don or Ryan, but back in the back of the park, that's now their VIP lounge, and they did a phenomenal job on it. I mean, it's amazing. Like, it's the best VIP lounge in the entire chain by far, and it's the way a VIP lounge should be. It's indoors. You have fountain drinks, you have snacks and TVs and games. They did a really good job. So King's Dominion obviously did not need that restaurant because they converted that restaurant into the VIP lounge. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the future.
Now, with that VIP lounge, do you think that is going to entice more guests to upgrade to that pass?
I mean, honestly, it's so worth it. I think it's $100, $125 extra for the Prestige. You get the 2 free tickets to get in the parks, for friends or family. You get the parking. I know as a dad with 2 kids, it's totally worth it for the parking alone. And you get the 2-hour early entry. As far as, not early entry, but you skip the regular line to get in. You have a different queue line to walk through to get into the park. So it's just super convenient. I'm honestly, I think King's Dominion, obviously I don't go there very much, but they got to be pulling in good amount of people for that, because unless they're not marketed the right way. But I know for like Carowinds, they're building a new Prestige Pass lounge for us this year. They're adding on to Harmony Hall, where that bar was on the side of the park or side of the building there. They're enclosing the whole entire area. So hopefully it'll be done probably by the month or so. But I feel like if we had something like that, more people will buy it, because it's hot down here in Charlotte. It's hot down in KD. I don't want to be outside when it's 98 degrees outside. Why pay extra for that? But if it's indoors, there's a bar, there's food, snacks, drinks, whatever, more people will do it, I'm sure.
Yeah, the King's Dominion VIP lounge is not going to notice by Prestige and former Prestige pass holders of Kings Island, I might add. And, the first year we got it at Kings Island, similar to Cedar Point's, where it was to celebrate the 50th. Then they offered the Prestige Pass late that season, in which everybody bought it. And does it include bottled water and bottled drinks? And snacks and stuff, and then it devolved to jugs of water with rotten fruit in the top, and one type of snack. And then they built the new VIP lounge the next year, which was like okay, but it's like a picnic shelter.
Yeah.
Where it's almost hotter to be under there than it is out there. So most people that I know went away from Prestige, mainly because what was listed on the website was, the bottled drinks and so on. And then they took those away and changed the language on the website. And they're like, terms are subject to change. And it's like, well, we're not, there's an integrity issue there, so.
And what really made me mad too, last year we bought just for Caitlin and I, and then Mason just had the pre-K pass, but they wouldn't let him in without having the Prestige, even though he's our kid. He's 5. And I'm like, you gotta be joking. Like, my wife and I pay good money for this. Our kid can't come in here. And so we ended up having to buy him a Prestige pass. So he was able to get in the park early with us and use the VIP lounge for the one-time fast lane. But verbiage wise, it's a little bit ridiculous. I completely, because Carowinds, when it first opened up, you had the bottled soda, bottled water. It was great. Then they got rid of that after like maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And they were just like, the jugs of water that has a little lemon in it. And it's like, whatever. I get the soda every 15 minutes. I can care less about that. But, don't advertise something, don't market something, and then strip things away. Because we went down to Six Flags Over Georgia last year, and their VIP lounge was legit nice. AC, good couches, TVs everywhere, snacks, fountain drinks. Like, it was legit. Same with Fiesta Texas. And so it's like, come on, Cedar Fair. If you're going to do this, do it right. But, they haven't done it really that good as far as a lounge goes. But the other benefits, it definitely makes good for us. I mean, Carowinds, not to get too off topic, but that park, I love Carowinds, but man, they're struggling. I think the leadership needs some changing up, and it's bad. I just got back from Dorney Park, and I gotta say that park is ran like a park should be. And I had good talks with Jessica Naderman. I don't know if you remember her, Don, or not, but she was at Kings Island, and so I met up with her and just chit chatted with her, and she just, the guest is her number one priority. The park too. She's like, they pay top dollar to be here. We're going to give them the best experience possible. And I was walking around thinking, this is a mid-tier park in the chain, and they don't have as big of a budget as Carowinds would, let's say. And yet everything was open, all the rides, all the restaurants open, and they even had parking attendants open, and the parking tolls were all open. It's like, it really, the longer I'm in this industry, and like, I don't work for the parks, but I'm friends with people who are, and I'm friends with 3 of the GMs in the new Six Flags now. Like, it starts from the top. And I don't think a lot of people realize that as much, where if you have a good park president with a good vision, and that's carried down through his or her management, the park's gonna be better off, better ran and better everything. But Carowinds is struggling, and I told Jessica, I'm like, hey, Charlotte's a great place to live, like, come on down.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, so you mentioned a couple other parks that you've been to. Can you tell us where you've been besides Kings Dominion and Carowinds this year?
Yeah, so I did the roller coaster rodeo out in Texas. So we did Six Flags Over Texas, Fiesta, SeaWorld San Antonio. And then we went to Dollywood. Saw Don at Dollywood back in March, I believe it was. And then did Kings Island for opening, not opening, but during Cedar Point's opening weekend. I did a day at Kings Island, Cedar Point for opening weekend. And then Six Flags New England, Six Flags Over Georgia, what else? Dorney Park, Kings Dominion, and we did Waldameer on the way to Massachusetts a few weeks ago. So it kind of been all over. It's been a good year. Did the Florida parks in January, but we knew we're probably going to be moving, so we try to schedule as much as we could up until midsummer, and now I have nothing on schedule at all. So it's kind of nice, kind of sad, but once I find out what we're doing, then I'll start planning on doing more trips or where I'm going to go for the fall.
Yeah, Brandon, talk about the Coaster Rodeo event that you did at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. I really wanted to go to that event. but some things came up where I wasn't able to get away that weekend. But love to hear your thoughts on it.
It's great. Like, it's so. This is my second year going, and their vision is to make it larger, but to not have to wait in lines or so long of lines like Hollywood Nights or the ones at Cedar Point, Kings Island, like. And every like Friday night's probably my favorite night just because they have 2 haunted houses that are open, and it's a big scare zone, and you get two free alcoholic beverages, you get free food, and you just get Jeffrey and back to the park presidents. Like Jeffrey was obviously at Kings Island when I worked there. He was a PR manager, and following where he's been in his career and how he runs that park, it's phenomenal. And he's just so personable. So he's up there talking to all the audience, and you really feel like he loves his job. He loves seeing you. And that's what the coolest thing about it is. And all the ERT during the, both nights of the event. Saturday, you get a lot of cool behind the scenes tours of things. The rock quarry tour is always awesome. It's hot. It is absolutely scorching hot, but it really is a lot of fun. It's worth every penny. And you get the lanyards that give you basically a flash pass throughout the day as well. So if you wanted to go ride rides during the day, you can use that to skip the lines. And I mean, we just rode a lot of rides. And unfortunately, Wonder Woman was closed. RMC did not get their trains yet for, fully commissioned and stuff by the state for the event, unfortunately. But last year, Iron Rattler, we rode it without even getting off at all, the seat. It was great. We rode like 11 times in a row staying in the same seat. Train come in the station, you pull your lap right down, you go again. That was great. This year, since Wonder Woman was closed, more attention was on IRAT. So it was a little, you had to get off and walk around every so often, which was a little bit, I wasn't used to that. I was a little spoiled last year. But overall, I mean, you waited 5, maybe 10 minutes max for like the front or back row. It was great. Every ride's open Saturday night, which is really cool. So overall, it's a great event. And you can, with Coda Land opening up their 2 new coasters next year, definitely, it's definitely more intriguing because you can hit a lot of cool parks all within about an hour and a half from each other.
Well, I definitely plan to attend next year.
Yeah, let me know. I'm thinking about. I don't think I'll go for as long. I would probably go for Friday night and Saturday, then leave Sunday, or do Coda Land Sunday. But definitely, it really is great. And again, Jeffrey's fantastic, and that park is just. It's funny. I was talking to Jeffrey. I'm like, you guys do things so different down here for like Six Flags, and aren't you worried about getting fired? Like, he was like, no, Brandon, I'm not, because I know what I'm going to do is going to provide the return on investment to create a better quality, which creates better revenues. And he was like, we operate like a Cedar Fair park. Because of this merger, it's going to be a lot easier for us to be able to fit right in with the standards of the Six Flags parks, or I'm sorry, the Cedar Fair parks.
So, Brandon, part one of the question, have you been to Waldameer?
Yes, I've been twice.
Okay. So Waldameer, this is semi-breaking news. And Don, I'm surprised you didn't bring this up, but they have a teaser for 2025. It says twist and dive into 2025. Oh. Have you seen this yet?
No.
So for audio listeners, it's a blurry image with the colors red, white, black, and I guess yellow.
Huh.
What do you think is coming to Waldameer? Do your prediction. I know that you're more of a recommendations guy than a prediction.
No, yeah. I mean, I'll always have predictions. Don't get me wrong. It's just, well, I think that park obviously it doesn't have room for a major coaster, any coaster for that matter. I mean, unless they find a way to put it. I mean, hell, this park is the one that built a massive water coaster. Don, did you ride that, by the way, when you were there?
I did not do the water coaster, but
it's massive. It's
huge. Yeah. I did. I toured around the water park. I thought the water park looked fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought the whole park, there's so much charm.
It is
that old school charm and
all the statues everywhere. Like, yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I loved it too. I mean, it's something now that is going to become a place that I visit annually.
Yeah. 100%.
And I highly recommend going there.
It's great because we had our dog Minion with us, so we're able to bring Minion with us because it's pet friendly, and it just really helped us out on our road trip. and we spent 3.5, 4 hours there, and it was great. I rode Ravine Flyer once because I had the kids and stuff, and I've been on it before, but I'm like, that ride's great. I really enjoyed it. And the dark rides are really cool, and just like you said, the charm. But I would say it's probably a flat ride. That's a family-owned park, and that water coaster probably cost, I 4 to 5, maybe 6 million at that. I mean, something up there. I mean, it's really big, and so I'm sure they're not, fully, basically made the money from that yet this quickly. But hopefully a flat ride. I mean, there's definitely room for a new flat ride, and I don't know as to what kind. I don't know, but what ride would be really good there? I think is like a Star Flyer. Obviously, that the teasing's not promoting a Star Flyer, but that would be really cool to have a 200-foot tall Star Flyer, so you look out and see Lake Erie right there, kind of like a Windseeker, but Waldamir's up on a hill a little bit more. But I don't know. If we twist and dive, I mean, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah,
they don't have any rides that go upside down, I don't think. So that would be really beneficial if they could get a flat ride that does flip you upside down. They can market it as our, only ride that will take you upside down.
Yeah, so Brandon, you got to experience Top Thrill 2 the short time that it was open this year. So what were your thoughts on the ride experience?
Oh, man, it was really good. I did a review on my channel afterwards. I was very impressed with Zamperla. I always wanted Intamin just because I just have always loved Intamin, but they did a really good job. The trains are fantastic, very comfortable. The ride itself was just a lot better. I think every piece of the ride exceeded my expectations for it. Even the first launch felt more powerful than I was going into thinking it would be. But it's all about that reverse launch and then the spike. That was just the coolest feeling. Is that you're up there forever. And you look down on Power Tower, it's pretty wild. And then you go over the top hat, and that top hat, the first time I'm riding it, my hands are up in the air. And then I've been on the original, we all have, and you didn't really get much airtime over the top. It flung you over so much. I grabbed on the handle. I'm like, oh snap, this is crazy. So I got 4 rides on it. I was very lucky to get 4 rides, 2 in the back, 2 in the front. All the trains. I noticed it was weird though. On Sunday morning, I rode back row in the silver train, and that's the train that's been giving them issues. And there was a rattle to it. I remember thinking something's not right here, because this thing doesn't feel like it's 100% sound, And not saying the train could break apart in mid ride, but something could happen where it made me a little uneasy riding it, and that was 4 days before they shut it down. But overall, the ride's really good. In my opinion, it's the best coaster at Cedar Point, and I'm not saying that for hype it up, but the way I look at it is it offers the 2 best coaster elements that you can find at the park. That vertical spike is unlike anything that you've ever experienced, and then the airtime over the top hat, it really is amazing pop of airtime. And so for those reasons, it's my favorite at Cedar Point. Barely beaten Maverick than Steel Vengeance.
So Brandon, you mentioned that they had Iron Menace that came to Dorney Park, and that was Dorney Park's first major original ride installation in quite a long time,
since Hydra.
Exactly. Everything else is relocated, but it was the rumor of the Gravity Group thing that came to they filed plans, and I guess it got 2020 or something. But tell me what Iron Menace means to Dorney Park. Do you think that that's going to change the landscape a little bit? Do you think that park, it's a signal that the park will have a little bit more focus moving forward? It seemed like it didn't get a lot of investment in the previous years.
Since we're all Paramount guys, we all worked at or visited Kings Island and Paramount days. It was ever since the Cedar Fair purchased Paramount Parks, Dorney Park got the shaft, they got ignored. Because before then, they had Talon in 2001, Hydra 2005, things were looking up for the park, and then all of a sudden, Cedar Fair and Paramount But Iron Menace, like, it's a good ride. It's not my favorite dive coaster. It's a great fit for that park. And that's something that I did predict for the park to build a couple, like 2 years ago. And so I'm happy that prediction came true. And it really is. It brings people to that back area of the park, which is desperately needed. And the visually aspect of the ride is fantastic because when you pull down the road to go park your car, as soon as you turn down the road, you see the off-axis loop right there in front of you. It really just builds up your anticipation. And then walking down the midway towards it, the placement of it's fantastic. Jessica and her team did a phenomenal job. And the music, oh my God, the music is surreal. Like, it's so good. It fits the theme so well. Like, my wife even complimented on the music, and she doesn't really like do that. I'm like, wow, yeah, you notice it too? Cool. But yeah, I really feel like now with the merger, it is kind of weird. It is kind of like what's going to happen with Great Adventure, like 90 minutes or less than 2 hours away. But Dorney Park's in a good spot because you're just north of Philly. The Lehigh Valley has over about almost 1 million residents now. I just think that park needs to open up sooner. I think it opens like second week of May, something really late, when all the other parks in the area open up like almost a month before. But maybe that'll change now with Iron Menace, because I think it's definitely in a good spot for Dorney. I know attendance has increased because of it, and they're marketing it the way they should. And visually, it looks great because it's 160 feet, and you can see it driving down the highway. There's a new ride there, and it's a great.
Did you find it to be like a smooth ride experience, or were there any intensity to it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely can feel the drop, going, past the 90-degree mark. The Immelman's really good, just like every other dive coaster. But I really like the zero-G corkscrew, whatever it was. I really, really enjoyed that on the wing coaster. I'm sorry, the dive coaster. The what's it called? The horizontal loop, whatever it is. It didn't do anything really for me. It was fun. I don't really feel like, just like on Rougarou, you don't really feel like you're upside down. You kind of do, kind of don't. But I really like the last corkscrew that goes over the brake run, because you kind of like hang there a little bit. But then there's that little jolt that goes into the brake run. So it's a little weird that B&M allowed that to happen, because you do feel it. It doesn't hurt. But it does like jolt you a little bit, like you see on the POVs. But other than that, what I did like about it is it's unique in the fact that you just go up the lift hill and then there's the drop. You don't have the long drawn out 90-degree turn or 180-degree turn at the top, which I like that too, because you get more time to take in the views. But for this, it's a great, because it definitely cut the budget down for the park to be able to build that that magnitude of a coaster.
Did you get a chance to ride Thunderhawk?
I did not, but I've been on it before. I rode it last year. It's really good. I enjoy it.
Okay, now Brandon, you had about 8 months to, let it sink in and kind of come up with what your thoughts were on this. But let's talk about the Cedar Fair Six Flags merger, and what do you think this is going to look like, say, 5 years down the road?
I think all parks are happy that this is happening. I think both Cedar Fair and Six Flags have better qualities than the other in different ways. I definitely think that the chain will not be, featuring 26 dry parks. I think they'll sell off a few of the parks, but I think that's pretty given due to the amount of, where some of those parks are located, and you have much larger parks and better metros and higher driven revenue, volume for each of those parks. I definitely am intrigued by the future of, this new company this new company potentially down the road announcing anywhere from 6-7 new coasters, maybe, because the Cedar Fair side of things, the last couple of years, you might add 2 or 3 new coasters to the parks, then Six Flags would add 3 or 4 new coasters. So I do like that. I'm really intrigued that Six Flags, the former parks, could hopefully start building hypers or gigas. Fiesta desperately needs a hyper. Great Adventure desperately needs a giga. So I like that. And on the flip side of things, Six Flags has worked with RMC more recently and Intamin than Cedar Fair has. So hopefully, we'll start seeing some more Intamins pop up at the parks, and RMC and Cedar Fair patch up their relationship and go from there. I think in the end of the day, I would love to hear your thoughts, Don, as well as Ryan. But I what I've heard, what I've seen, I think it's a good move, and I think it's going to be really exciting to see the future of it.
I was excited about it, when the merger was announced back in November, and there's a lot of possibilities,
Yep.
that are there. You get, the things that Six Flags did very well, the things that Cedar Fair did very well. You mix those two things together, and I think it's a win for the guest.
I agree. Yep, I think definitely. And I wouldn't really want to see the DC stuff move into the Cedar Fair parks, but I get it. If it does, it does. And the end of the day, I'm there for the experience and the rides, and as long as that stays, I can really care less what the ride's called, or what it's themed about. I just want to make sure that the quality is there, because you could definitely tell outside of Fiesta. When you visit a Six Flags park, I was up in New England over last week, and it's just like, oh my God, get me out of here. Like, I can't. This park is so much potential, and yet it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, we've had Dennis Spiegel on the show a couple times.
Yeah.
And he's like, we had him on, was it last week? Yeah, it was last week, Don.
Right.
And he was very, very blatant with the way that he thought about the merger. He said that they say it's a merger of equals. Cedar Fair is the wind beneath the wings of this merger, because they are rescuing Six Flags, which, I mean, take it from the experts and stuff. But my question to you is this about the merger itself. We're looking at Peanuts, Looney Tunes, and DC Comics. If one of them were to survive this merger, and let's say they just go full bore with one of the IPs, which one do you think it is, and why?
I think it would have to be DC. And the reason why is everyone can relate to like Batman and Superman. And we've seen it in other Six Flags parks, like Over Georgia has their, a couple years, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, they expanded the DC kids area, which they had they have Flying Eagles ride, a little kid drop tower, and another cute little kid ride. I just think there's more to that. If you had to keep one, that's what I would keep, because you can do cool rides. I have no problem with the roller coaster being themed to Superman. Some of my favorite rides are themed to like Batman, Superman. I like that. But I love hearing the music, the Batman music just gets me pumped up. But I think I love Snoopy. I would rather have Snoopy over Bugs Bunny personally, but I think for marketing power and what more people would basically buy more merchandise, which this is really what it's all about. I think if I had to rank, I think DC, then Looney Tunes, and then Snoopy, Peanuts.
Yeah, I agree with you in that order. I think that with the merchandise sales and that with Looney Tunes than there is with Peanuts.
Yeah.
But at the top of the list, it would have to be the DC Comics.
Yeah, there's more you can do, but also, when it comes to DC Comics, though, that's not really necessarily a kid-friendly IP. So it's almost like they'd have to have DC and something else. They'd have to have DC and Warner Brothers, or Looney Tunes, and DC and Peanuts, or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I mean, they've had two forever at Six Flags, so they might as well. They could just keep that too. I don't think we'll see Snoopy in one area of the park and then Looney Tunes in another area. I think it'll be one or the other. And I love Snoopy, so my kids love it. I would hate to see Woodstock and Snoopy go away, but I can see why it would.
Yeah. Brandon, we were talking earlier when I invited you to be on the show, and you made it very clear that you are no longer theme park predictions. You are now theme park recommendations. What's up with that?
A few things. One, as a business strategic aspect of it, it comes down to, the predictions was me putting out news, my predictions, breaking news, this or that, or these plans for the blueprints got leaked. And while I enjoyed doing it, the parks didn't really care for me too much. And I wanted to change that. Not, I can care less if I get invited to media days. I just want to be in the good graces of the parks. But more importantly, my own mental health really wasn't there, because it felt like I just had to work to make the revenue. Because for me, it's about the revenue, because we rely on my revenue to be able to go do stuff. And I'm a stay-at-home dad as well, so I don't have a ton of time to do this. So when I do have time, I need to be able to, if I want to go on vacation, have a good time, not worry about putting a video out. But if I did that with the prediction videos, I'd be making like $20 a day, and I couldn't do that. So I knew I needed to do the switch to the guides and the theme park recommendations, because it's content that people can watch for years. And it's been honestly, as hard as it was for me to make the change, it was the best decision I could have ever made, due to I've been gone for 30 days, put out videos maybe once every 5-6 days, and I've had a record-breaking June, view-wise, subscriber-wise, as well as revenue on that channel, and I couldn't be happier with it. Then honestly, I live my life to love others and help others, and I get more out of making a video where, this family can have a better time at Kings Island, or, any park, Waldameer even, and knowing that they will have a better time there and spend more money at that park to help that park out. That was why I just get more out of that for me personally. My mental health is so much better than what it was before. And I have another channel as well, Travel Guides USA, where I do like travel videos. And that I'm very, very pleased that we're both of these different types of content are at. And I still do a few predictions and stuff, but I'm not doing very much, especially with the new Six Flags content creator guidelines. I picked the perfect time to like get out of it. I do more post on my predictions on X, because where I would spend 6 or 7 hours making a video that might make me $100, $150 after the first 2 or 3 days of that video being live, the views drop. You don't hardly get any more views on it, because it's like news. So that's really what I really had to get out of, and focus more on making videos that will have a better audience going forward. So it was hard, but I'm very happy where I'm at.
Yeah.
So Brandon, let's talk about what you do. I know, and I get this a little bit now because I've been traveling around doing what I do for theme parks, by Don, my blog, and what Ryan and I do here with the podcast, and using my social media channels, and that where people will say, must be nice to just travel around, go where you want, when you want. But what you do, what I do, what Ryan does with this podcast here, I mean, that's actually work. I mean, it's a lot involved in what we do. It's just not playtime at the parks. That there's editing your videos, there's the filming that you do, there's having to respond to any of the inquiries and things that you get. It's having to look at the analytics and know what's working, know what's not working. I mean, there's a lot involved here.
Yeah, it really is daunting, because when I go to the park, especially with my family, I have to be dad. I have to vlog, I have to get pictures, I have to get video. Then I want to have a good time myself, and then you get, people coming up to you, hey, it's Brandon. I want to, it's just great. I love it. I'm like, let's talk for a few minutes. And then it's like, it's hard, and to your point, that's just the front end of it. The back end of it's when you come home, you have to upload all your stuff to your computer. You have to create your vlogs or your articles in your website, or even your social media posts. Like, I love it. And I say it sometimes in my videos, because now I have like the fast lane. When I go to the parks, I'll buy the premium, skip the line, whatever service they have. And I don't do it because I wanted just to do it. I do it because I have to. I have to have time to be able to get my work in. Plus, I need to enjoy some coaster therapy. And Ryan knows me, I mean, forever. This is the best I've ever done in my life. I'm proud to admit it. 41 years old, but financially wise, like 3 years ago, I would never be able to afford even a $80 fast lane pass. I couldn't have done it. I didn't make enough money. And so I lived that, where, well, I just can't afford it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pay it. But now it's like, all right, well, now the channel, the revenue from the channel warrants it because people want to see my reaction and I can make more videos out of it. But I do it strategically where I do certain parks because I know what type of videos I'm going to get. And I'm going to try to make 3 or 4 videos from that one park. So it just, it definitely, it is daunting, but I love it. Sometimes I just wish to be a GP, wear just a generic shirt, walking around, having a good time. But sometimes it doesn't happen that way, which is fine too.
Now, Brandon, you said you're the best you've been. I've known you for 20 years now. I think you peaked when you were a supervisor on the Beast, personally.
I know, right? I know. Yeah. The Beast.
That was as good as it got, right?
Yeah.
I love my time at the Beast in 2004, even Whitewater Canyon in 2005. Like the friends and memories that I made from that year, those 2 years, was fantastic. And I remember that, I think the month of July that year, I only had like 4 or 5 days off the whole year. And every day I was off, I was either at Cedar Point or Holiday World, a different park, or at Kings Island. It was pretty wild. Oh, I was 21 years old. I was just having a good time. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely really, it is a lot of fun to be able to work your butt off. And I taught myself everything. And that's why I like helping, you, Ryan, and stuff with the questions you have, because I've done all this stuff now for 4 years, and it's definitely, it's like a full circle moment. It's like I'm not in the parks working anymore, but I'm here to promote the parks, and I'm constantly at the parks, and I love it. It's funny, I don't have many friends that are not part of the industry because I have nothing to talk about. I'm just talking about theme parks all the time, and it's definitely fun.
Yeah, it's funny because what you mentioned, like, like you've helped me out and stuff, and you have it. One of the reasons why your name came up, I think it was top of mind for Don, is because it was like, well, I talked to Brandon and he said that with YouTube, because so I do appreciate the help. And
of course,
for those who don't know, it, obviously the Tower Topics on the other side has been monetized, so that adds a whole bit of complexity. So Brandon's been very helpful with that. But you touched on this a little bit earlier, but the new Six Flags content creator policy. Don and I discussed this on Tower Topics at length, which will drop after this episode. So we're going to hold our opinion, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I mean, I get it to a point. The parks want to protect themselves, and I respect that. But I think what they really are trying to say is, what I'm going to do, what I've always done in the past, is I'm not afraid to criticize a park, but put a positive spin on it. Like, went to, Carowinds today, and Ferry broke down 2 or 3 times. It's really unfortunate, but, the ride hardly ever has much downtime unless there's a crack. I wouldn't say that, of course, nowadays. But, like, always have a more of a positive attitude, positive spin for it. I think a lot of things, I get the leaking stuff and everything. That's why I stopped doing that, really. So I get a lot of the reasons as to why they have these rules in place or these guidelines. And I think a lot of it too is for like the media aspect. If you want to be on our media list, you have to abide by the rules. I think that's fair. I've never been a suck up my whole entire life, and I will never be a suck up. And there was a lot of content creators, a lot of people that are suck ups, just like anything, any business. And that's fine. I will always, if something's wrong, I'd rather be the person to contact management or to tweet about it, to share with the park itself. Hey, by the way, I noticed this. That way they can get it fixed, and the guest will not notice it, or it'll get fixed before, something else happens as far as guest gets upset type of thing. So the way I do things, I just want to make sure the park is running the best way possible. That way the guest is having the best time they can.
Agree with that. So Brandon, anyone that follows you on X knows that you seem to enjoy meeting those that follow you when you're visiting the different parks. How often do you get recognized when you go to, say, Carowinds?
It depends. If I'm in like Camp Snoopy with the kids, not too often, But once I like break away from there and head over to Fury, it's pretty frequent, which is cool. There's one time I went with my neighbor Dave, and I think I was wearing probably one of my polos, and I'm not even kidding you. Like within the first hour, like 5 or 6 people came up to me and started talking. It was just great, like back to back to back. Finally, like the last person, I like give me a minute. I gotta catch my breath, because I went from one to the next to the next. It was crazy. So it's definitely like surreal for me because I'm not used to it. I'm just Brandon, who just friends with Ryan and whoever else, and now I'm just a YouTuber that people that I've never met before come up. Hey, I know you're from somewhere. You're the YouTuber. I love it. I always try to give my time to those people because I want to make sure that they know that I acknowledge them and respect them, and I appreciate them watching my videos. And so I always try to, talk for a few minutes, and if they want a photo, do a photo, or at least, shake their hand and show my gratitude towards them. But it's definitely a cool feeling for sure. Definitely. And I get recognized now, like if I'm just in regular clothes. I got recognized at one of our favorite hole-in-the-wall restaurants here. Hey, I know your voice from somewhere. You do YouTube. It's like, oh my gosh, really?
I seem to recall, I don't know when this was, maybe 2 years ago when you and I were hanging out at Winterfest at Kings Island.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that recognized you, and they were like, oh, it's Brandon from Theme Park Predictions. And you're the guy that's on Don Helbig's podcast too.
Yeah. Then we have a whole group in front of the fountain there by the Eiffel Tower. I remember that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. But Brandon, before we close out, why don't you tell people just a little bit about your YouTube channel and where to find it?
Yeah, so it's obviously YouTube, Theme Park Recommendations, and I just talk all about theme parks and top 10 videos and theme park guides. I'm working on a video. It should be coming out this week where I basically showcase 10 epic roller coaster road trips you got to do. That was a fun video to make. But basically try to share theme park tips and guides with people to make sure people have a good time in the parks and, promote the industry the best way I can and the most positive way I can to, help benefit the industry.
And what's your other channel? The travel one?
It's Travel Guides USA. Yeah, Travel Guides USA. I do like top 10 things to do in Pigeon Forge, top 10 places to stay here, vacation guides to Gatlinburg, so I love that channel because I really like that as well. So I try to do, 55-60% of my time goes to the theme park and 40% goes to the other channel. But they're both things that I enjoy doing because they both help people, and that's really what it's all about for me.
That's awesome. Well, Brandon, we really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you for being a repeat customer of ours.
Yeah.
But it's make sure that I'm going to drop a link in the description.
I expect my check to be in the mail tomorrow, by the way.
We actually do things digitally now. Welcome to the 21st century.
You got Venmo, we'll send it to you there.
Yeah.
So Brandon has a very high appearance fee, apparently, that he didn't disclose until after we started recording.
It's only 1 cent per hour. Okay.
1 cent per hour. Oh God, we got to end this soon so we can round down to zero. We're at like 58 minutes, but I'm gonna have links in the description for your I almost said podcast, for your YouTube channels. I would like to think that everybody who watches this would have heard of the theme park recommendations
or predictions,
honestly, or predictions. Yeah. But honestly, that's what I consider one of my routine shows where it's just like, oh, new episode's up, gotta watch it. People have their own vloggers and stuff like that, and Brandon's is definitely one of mine. So check it out, description below. Cool. Hey, stick around. We got the Pick 6 coming up next.